All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your first NVDA app module, a session, a 6-week course on writing your very first NVDA app module. You are part of a historic moment. NVDA is a decade old. And through the last 10 years of NVIDIA's existence, and many people have written some powerful app modules, global plugins, speech synthesizers, and whatnot. Let me see.
You'll find
There
it.
you are. So, one of the strengths of NVDA, yet at the same time is one of the disadvantages of NVDA, is that it allows you to extend its functionality, but at the same time, some of the people over at NVDA community felt that we have to penetrate more locations. We have to make it so that more professional apps can be supported by NVIDIA, such as Microsoft Access, IBM Nota Symphony, many other applications and so forth. And what allows that to happen is app modules. So you are at a pivotal moment in NVIDIA history where you'll be learning how to write at least basic app module. Because of time constraints, we're not going to advance stuff. But for the next 6 weeks,
Oh yeah,
you will
everything
learn.
will follow you.
You will learn what it is like to be in the shoes of an app module developer, learning about how app modules work for users, to give you Backstage Tour of how app module really works, and get a chance to learn how to extend NVDA's functionality using for support modules for apps. So I think it'll be fitting if I give you some outline of the course. Today is overview, the introduction to what those are, what they are not. So as collaborating with app developers and giving you a chance to write your bare minimum app module. Next week is scripts, so input, output, speech, braille, tones, and keyboards. And subsequently, we'll go into more advanced topics such as objects, events, Windows API, overlay classes if we have time, Windows API if we have time, and so forth. So let's start with defining what an app is. An app is a collection of features, a collection of user interfaces that allows you to perform a specific task. Technically speaking, this is part of what computer science world calls it a process. So you have, say, you have a menu bar, you have your toolbars, you have status bar, you have a document window open, you may have a web browser, you may have an Excel spreadsheet, you may have a music editing program. These are called programs. These days, these are called apps. Now, technically speaking, apps are slightly more minimalistic or smaller than programs. But in technical terms, they are called application programs. They do what they specialize in. You can do things like write spreadsheets, create databases. There are some programs that allow you to write programs. There are programs that will convert Python source code to binary with zeros and ones and whatnot. There are programs that will let you connect to the internet and exchange files and all those. So those are apps. Typically, when people talk about scripting, like what Jim Snowbarger has done with his famous JAWS scripts, which I highly appreciate, many people would like to start with defining what app modules are. But I'd like to start with asking this question for you. Please ponder the following question for a few minutes. What app modules are not? Have you thought about this question? So you have this support module for apps. So what they are not? Have you thought about that? I'm sure some of you might have.
Can I tell you the possible answer?
Yeah, sure.
An app module is not a script.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Also-
App module is
Also,
not a script.
an
That's
app
good, okay.
an app module lets you use native app features, and it doesn't extend app features at least not as I know. So it lets you use default features which are in the app, but it doesn't expand feature or
Wow. We got echoes. So, okay, Christian. There's Christian Sinofsky from Croatia.
from Serbia.
Serbia. Okay, thanks.
Someone is echoing. I don't know who.
Yeah, so that's fine. At least we can understand it for this one. So Christian brought up a very good point. App modules are not scripts. I would say they are more than scripts. We'll find out what scripts are in a second. I'll give you a short definition of what a script is. Yes?
Also, an app module is not like a regular program called Media Player.
Okay. That's an
I think
that's
in
Laura
short
Cornwell.
we can say app module is not an application replacement.
Right. That's Jorge, colleague from Croatia, and app modules are not program replacement. That's okay. That's an interesting concept there. Okay. Any other thoughts on this? What app modules are not?
Can I tell you what I also think, what idea I got?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can have just a single app module for an application, but you can have more scripts within that app module. At least I think so.
Yeah. Right. So you can have more than one scripts. You can have more than one routines that respond to keyboard. That's good. So that those are right. That's the crucial thing we have to think about when we go to app modules. Now, Christian kept talking about scripts. A script is in NVDA world, or in fact for people who use scripting JAWS and whatnot, a script is a routine that gets used when you press a key. Now, in JAWS world, there are two. The script is bound to a keyboard, so you can do also things in there. You can press arrow keys to move around. You can press specific keys on the braille display to move around in apps. You can press. So Fourier said in text chat, app modules are not DLLs. They don't write in C++. Right, exactly. So you don't write app modules in C++, although you can write support routines of app modules in C++. If C, technically, these are called Python C extensions, and then you just like you can write it as a PYD file. So a script is a routine that responds to keyboard presses. You can do flicks with touchscreens. Those are scripts. In JAWS world, you may have noticed a concept of functions. A function is a unit of program that does something if told to do so. It's like a black box that it does whatever it does to achieve the goal that you are looking for. So that's what app modules are not. App modules are not scripts. They are more than scripts. App modules are not DLLs. App modules cannot replace programs. And app modules are not global. They cannot be global because their scope is for a specific app. So there's a big difference between an app module and in NVIDIA world what they're called global plugins. Global plugins, they can perform their commands everywhere. But there are slightly, they're in terms of power, they're on par with app modules, but slightly less because there are specific routines that only app modules have. And again, app modules are not global. App modules are not program replacements. They're not DLLs. So that leads us to the question: what exactly are app modules? An app module is a Python module that's for NVDA that provides support for specific apps. So you can have apps, you can have commands for apps that is part of an app module. You can have event handlers that handle specific events like name changes, gaining focus, and whatnot in app modules. You can have overlay classes where you can have specific logic for a particular control. You can have many things in there in app modules. So in a nutshell, an app module is a support routine for an app. You can, if you want, which I'll show you later, you can have one module be responsible for another app, provided that if two apps share the same functionality, only difference is the name of the executable. Now, I have to mention the name concept of executable, E-X-E-C-U-T-A-B-L-E. An executable is a container that contains, at least it's a name identifier for a process. A process in computer science and other programming is a unit of computing managed by an operating system or system software that contains code, data, and other information about a program. So it will get really confusing if you don't keep up with it. A program is the visible aspect of a process. You can do user interface with it. You can do whatever that you want with it. It's specialized. But a process is what an operating system will look at when it comes to managing programs. Process is. It contains code, data, and other information related to that.
Question for you right here.
Yes.
Can't executables also be viruses or have viruses within them? That's what I've always heard.
Laura brought up an interesting question. Can executables have viruses? Yes, they can. Simply because of the fact that central processing units, or CPUs, they can execute whatever that's given to them. It doesn't care if it is an app module written for Python, and it doesn't care if it is NVDA DXE. It doesn't care if it's a web browser that's trying to make a web network connection. So you want to enter app module for errors? Probably not. No, don't do that. So you can do anything, but these days operating systems like Microsoft Windows are more defensive about viruses these days, to a point where they will stop some of the most intriguing viruses. There are certain malware that will pass some of the safeguards put in place by operating systems, but there's certain executable files that there are archives, like self-extracting zip archives, and so like there are executables where these are essentially self-extracting zip files. You can do all sorts of things with it. Yes, there are files that does that. And
I have a question.
Yes.
Can there be a program so one visible program and more processes within it, which you can see in Task Manager?
Yes, it's possible. Now, this falls into a more advanced topic of inter-process communication. This means more than two processes working together inside one program. A good example is Firefox or Internet Explorer, where you have multiple processes, one per tab or one per window. NVDA itself has multiple processes in it, and that is seen when you have a 64-bit Windows. In 64-bit Windows, NVDA itself is 32-bit. Because of this, it cannot work well with 64-bit apps. So in order for NVDA to talk to 64-bit processes, while itself is a 32-bit, it will need help from an assistant called NVDA helper loader, which itself is 64 bits. So it communicates back and forth between these two guys working together to provide access to 64-bit apps. And the NVDA helper loader is written in C++. It, among other things, it allows NVIDIA to talk to 64-bit processors and gathering needed information. And we won't go into how that is even possible. That is a concept of Windows on Windows 64-bit, or WoW 64. We won't go into that today. The Tortoise SVN, we won't get into that because of that exact problem. NVIDIA cannot talk to 64-bit processes by itself. Is it possible to write an antivirus app module? Yes, you can write an app module for antivirus software such as Vapor, Security Essentials, but the Security Essentials / Windows Defender is very accessible out of the box. Antivirus is also an application, right? Exactly. So you can write antivirus. However, note that it requires collaboration from app developers. That's what I'm going to talk about next. The issue with modern day antivirus software, like since 2012 onwards, is the fact that they lock themselves in so that nobody can tamper with it. It causes accessibility regressions. It causes people to have problems with trying to navigate their user interface like AVG and Avast and whatnot. For this reason, many people have written to antivirus vendors, antivirus software vendors, saying that they want to see their apps made more accessible to screen readers or give exceptions to screen readers such as JAWS, NVDA Narrator, and whatnot, so screen reader writers and users can have an easier time using that. And somebody said AppVera is accessible with JAWS. There are some reports about mixed successes with NVIDIA. So anyway, yes, you can write app modules for antivirus. Right. So in the old versions, right? That's why it is critical that before you write an app module, that you talk to app developers about collaborating with app developers. And let's talk about Vapor right here. That's pretty much the concept of what an app module is and what an executable is and whatnot. So for the rest of this session for today, we'll talk about collaborating with app developers and making their apps attractive and accessible. I usually, when I tell people about app modules, although contrary to popular opinion that there should be app module for every app, technically you don't need an app module for all apps. You don't. I would personally, this is just me, but the standard practice in screen reading is that we would try to find ways of contacting app developers first. And then if they are not willing, I may have to emphasize the word not, because that changes the whole game here. You should write an app module if an app developer says they are not willing. What if the app developer ignores your request to collaborate? That is them saying another way, we're not interested in it. They're saying there's another way of saying no by app developers. So you should write an app module if the app developer is unwilling to listen to you, that is unwilling to provide the apps accessible, as a form of showing the app developers why they should care about accessibility. That's one way. The other way is if the app developer is willing to make their apps accessible to a point where we just need to do some more tweaks from NVDA side of things, from screen reading side of things. They have provided accessibility for general audience members, like making events fire at the right moment for right controls and whatnot. It then becomes a matter of screen reader developers and app module writers / script writers writing scripts for specific screen readers to take advantage of this. And the good example of that is Station Playlist Studio, where the app developer made their apps accessible to a point where all that was needed was telling screen readers, look, this is what's happening for specific control. You should keep an eye on specific events. That's it. Although there are some quirks with that app, but for the most part, that program is very accessible. And I can tell you that as an author of that app module, or technically in this case, I'm the maintainer of that app module, is working out to be a very attractive solution for broadcasting. So usually those are some cases where you do need to write app modules for. If the collaborator, if the app developer doesn't want to collaborate, that where we have to come in and do something about this, or if the app writer decides to write a general purpose accessibility solution like events and whatnot, and then all we need to do is provide screen reading adaptations. So that's what the real reasons for writing app modules are for, to make their apps accessible, usable by screen reader users, nothing else. You can do all sorts of things within the app module like commands, events, and whatnot. So the first step in collaborating with app module, with collaborating with app developers, is find out what the app is. Find out what the app is, use it for a while, and document accessibility issues. That's the first step. Try using the app in various scenarios like tabbing around, using option navigation, using NVDA and other screen readers to make sure the app is accessible. At least it tries to make it accessible and whatnot. And then once you document your issues, contact app developers. You should contact app developers like saying, hey, I am this person. I'm a user of a screen reader. I like to see. Here are some of the problems that I found with your app, and be sure to provide steps to reproduce. Otherwise, app developers will not have a clue. They will say their apps is accessible, but if they're not given instructions on how to reproduce your problem, how to reproduce a problem that you're trying to address with them, they will say, "Oh, this guy is sending this email and saying, I have this accessibility problem, but I don't know how to reproduce this." So it is critical that when you talk to app developers, emails, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram for some people, Google Hangouts, chats and whatnot, please be sure to tell them that you are a screen reader user, that you want to make sure their apps are accessible and usable by many people, and that you know a way to reproduce the problem that you are having. You don't have to provide them with keystrokes. You can just say, click here and click that. You just tap here and tap that. You can open this window and try using tab to move through that window and whatnot. So that way, app developers will find a way to reproduce the accessibility issues that users are having, and who knows, they might contact NV Access, they might contact VFO, now that's Acquired Freedom Scientific, AI Squared, and Optelect. They might contact Microsoft, they might contact Apple and whatnot, or they might contact the Linux community if it's a Linux app, Linux program that Orca users should have access to. Who knows, that contact the screen reader vendors in hopes that screen reader vendors, users, and app developers can work together to make apps accessible. One of the fruitful results is Goldwave, where Goldwave script writers, users, and the app developer, the Goldwave vendor, have worked together to make Goldwave one of the most usable, user-friendly audio editing software out there. In contrast, the most serious situation that some of us are facing in terms of app development collaboration, in terms of accessibility collaboration, is what's called universal apps, or universal Windows platform. It's a way of running apps on multiple devices that's powered by Windows 10. The issue is that we have contacted app developers, we as screen reader users and developers have contacted app developers to mixed success. I say mixed because some of the apps are accessible. You can just tab and option navigation to move around it. Some of the apps are inaccessible, like recent versions of Facebook and Facebook Messenger. Some of them have wrong labels, such as Twitter, where there's XAML markup problem. Some have specific UIA problems. Some, even certain apps from Microsoft, they have broken UIA, UI automation implementations. Now, I'll talk about what UIA is at the last session when we talk about accessibility APIs and Windows API and overlay classes. Suffice to say that Microsoft is improving on it. So those are the sort of the opposite spectrum when it comes to collaboration with app developers. And this is personal stuff, this personal thing, but I would rather not see tickets raised about apps until you contact app developers. If they are willing to make the apps accessible, then yes, then it's good. That means you can talk to app developers, make the apps accessible so that all screen reader users can benefit from it. A good case being Team Talk 5, where the app developer has decided to use a specific module as part of that comes with NVDA, or at least can be built from NVDA, that allows the app to tell NVDA to speak or build something. That's a good outcome from that. If the app developer is unwilling to collaborate, then I think you should raise NVDA ticket regarding the app, so that it can be brought up to the attention of NV Access, to add-ons community, to app module right specialists, so that we can do something about it. We can what's going on. We can tell app developers about technical issues that's happening there, here and there, and provide recommendations. And NV Access does have a paid support facility to provide consultations for app developers to make their apps, and in some cases websites, accessible. So the summary in terms of collaboration: collaborate a lot with app developers. Give them feedback, especially if it's something to do with app accessibility. Tell them how to reproduce the accessibility problem that you're having, so that they can follow along with you. They can do follow-ups with you. They can come up with ways of making the apps more accessible, so that there will be day when apps will be accessible by all screen reader users, not just for NVDA, but for people using JAWS, Windows, Narrator, and some other operating systems, VoiceOver, Orca, and many screen readers. Which means ideally there will not be an app module for an app, but there are cases where I do know that we have to write an app module for. So that is collaborating with app developers, and please do contact them if you have questions about their apps and accessibility stuff. They do have Twitter handles, they do have Facebook pages, they do have their email addresses and whatnot. At this point, are there any questions or comments or discussion things I should talk about collaborating with app developers? By the way, folks, if you don't have a microphone, you can send in text chats. What time?
I do have a quick question here.
Yes.
And it's in regards to an app that I used to be able to do through Firefox called WebVism. Now, Mozilla is not letting us install it because it's an unsigned app. Does anybody know who the developers are or anything?
For WebVism, there's a signed version out now. Tia asks, did you have a case where you couldn't contact app developers? Yes. We do have unfortunate cases where, unfortunate is a strong word here, but we had some cases where users could not contact app developers, either because they passed away, they have transferred their app development copyrights to someone else, or their website shut down for whatever reason and whatnot. I don't have a specific case for moment in front of me at this time. Are there any other questions, please? Questions, comment, discussion topics, and whatnot in regards to collaborating with app developers, especially the things that we talked about so far?
Well, like, let's say you've got Windows Media Player. Don't you think that there needs to be more accessibility done there on that one? I don't, like, as far as getting into the streams without having to go to the website every time.
For that one, is that Microsoft will need to handle, but the thing is, Windows Media Player has been replaced by several apps. There's video, movies, and TV, and there's group music in Windows 10. So I'm not sure if Microsoft will continue developing MP or Windows Media Player. There's plenty of replacements like VLC, Winamp, GOM Player. But GOM Player is a media app from South Korea. It's a part of a suite, GOM suite. It has GOM Recorder, it has GOM Player, and whatever. So there are plenty of replacements for that. WMP is something that Microsoft will need to look at. And speaking of Microsoft stuff, there are certain portions of Microsoft Office that I do know that people want access to, like Microsoft Access, Microsoft OneNote, and all those. There are specific cases where a control will appear in multiple apps, and for this reason, they cannot be in app modules. A good case is Microsoft Word, where the Word document control itself shows up in multiple places. For that reason, they will not be at for Microsoft Word as far as NVDA Core is concerned. Now, I said the word core because we're talking about app modules that ships with NVDA. Others outside of that will be add-ons. Any other questions or comments or discussion topics from anybody who hasn't spoken up yet?
Where can you find the email or whatever for companies that specifically deal with the accessibility?
We have actually an expert with us here. Sean Randall is one of the experts here with us, and we do have people like Sina Bara, we do Paul Warner, we have Brian Hartgen, there are many consultancy agencies that have email addresses or contacts that they can contact about app accessibility and asking them to test apps on users' behalf and whatnot. Some of them will charge some money for that, but some of them I do not do it for free. At least some incentives in there. So not too sure, but there are some consulting agencies that will help you with this.
Do you know which consulting agencies are free?
Wow, echoes. But anyway, consulting agencies, there's so many out there. There's like TNT Consultancy. There's it's gone now. There's so many places. There are so many people who specialize in accessibility consultancy at this point. It depends on where you live, and for the most part, it's around all over the world. But I think though, it's much better if users take initiative in contacting app developers themselves, so that at least app developers can hear feedback from users.
Can I chime in, Joseph?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to say that the one problem we have, I see as a consultant myself, users don't really know what to tell developers. You get users emailing a developer and saying, this app is not accessible, and that's all they say. So one of the roles a consultant plays is to bridge the gap, is to bridge the technological gap between the end user and the app developer to explain in enough detail what the problem is to hopefully find a solution.
Right. So thanks, Sean. Yeah, so that was Sean Randall, and yes, right, and thanks very much for this perspective. Any other questions or comments on what we talked about? Now let's get started with coding. Now you know more about what app modules are, what processes are, what app modules are not, and collaborating with app developers. Obviously, you have to give them feedback on that. Let's actually get started with coding the app module. Surprisingly enough, the bare minimum app module requires only 2 lines. Surprisingly enough. And it's done using Python, and you will need a text editor that can interpret Python files, like py files, correctly. So for this one, I'll actually go through demonstrations with you. So let me open Notepad. Let me place a microphone close to the speaker here, not to overwhelm you, but
desktop list, team top 5 classic 17 of 23.
I want to open Notepad.
Cortana with Notepad plus plus.
Not this one, but
Notepad.
this.
Untitled Notepad. Edit multi-line blank.
Now,
What do we need? Notepad and Notepad plus plus.
a Notepad++, because that's the editor I'll be using to write Python files.
Okay, gotcha.
So I have open
Notepad.
Notepad, and before we actually get into app module writing, there's a command that you need to become familiar now. If I press this particular command, you hear this.
Currently running application is notepad.exe.
It will tell you what app that you are running at this very moment. And this is Control NVDA F1. So right now, I'd like to ask you to open an app like Microsoft Office, or for some of you, Edge or Notepad, or for Windows 7 users, might be computer or like whatever your documents. Open the app of your choosing. Once it opens, press Control NVDA F1, and NVDA will announce the name of the executable, the app that you're running. For me, it is
currently running application.
I ran work.
Wow, echo. Anyway, so you can have voice activation on if you want, and if you want to, you can type in what NVIDIA says in the text chat, and eSpeak will read it for you.
Okay.
Thanks for now. In case you open an app that actually does have an app module defined, like in my case is
settings window, list, system not selected 1 of 9.
This is Windows 10 version 15.11. So I press Windows I, and if I press Control NVDA F1 now,
currently running application is system settings.exe, and currently loaded module is system settings.
This is for an app that actually does have an app module, which in this case it does. But for app that doesn't have an app module, you only get the executable name.
Untitled Notepad.
Now, the reason why I'm bringing this command up right now, Control NVDA F1, first of all, it isn't documented anywhere except in certain places. And second, you'll be using this command to verify that your app module did load. So try pressing Control NVDA F1 from an app and see if you got an app module loaded. It'll say currently running application is this.exe, and the current loaded app module is whatever.
And https://dl.rockbits.user-content.com/user-content.com/497,000.
Yeah, somebody send the URL there.
Team top up in mic tab dialog window. 5 less Sean Randall breaker on. Win less Sean Randall breaker. Oh, sorry. Type a message.
That's fine, Sean. So that is a command that you should become familiar with. Now, to find out the name of the executable that you're running in an app module, for app modules are named according to the name of the executable in question. So in this case, Notepad is notepad.exe, so the name of the app module is notepad.py. And app modules are stored in various places, chiefly in the app modules folder in your user configuration folder, or if it comes with the add-on, it should be stored in the app module folder, app modules. It is named
symbol level all. Speak typed characters on A, P, M.
Capital M
O D U L E S. App modules.
That is the name of the folder where the app module should be stored. Be careful with case sensitivity here.
Blank.
In my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my user configuration directory.
This PC window. Items new list. Backup items new list. Add-ons not selected.
What I did was I went to my user folder and opened the roaming and the NVDA folder.
App modules 2 of 24.
App module is open.
7/13/2000.
I put the punctuation set to all. So
items new list. Instant word.py not selected 1 of 6.
Because this was provided by Noya Martinez, by the way.
Instant lock app.py3 of 6.
Log app, lock screen for Windows 10 app, and do some experiments with it.
Notepad++ .py5 of 6.
Notepad++, that's written by Derek Reamer, and he's not here with us today, but... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bare minimum Notepad app module.
What's Derek's add-on? What Derek's app module for Notepad++ does?
It does right now. He's writing a hack to allow you to look at key bindings in Notepad+ options.
Great.
Among other goodies. So let me know via text chat or voice when you are ready to proceed.
I'm ready.
I have a question about this control NVDA F1 thing.
Yes.
Does that only work in laptop config or does that work in desktop?
It'll work across keyboard layouts.
Okay, because I can't get mine to work.
What does input help?
Stefanovsky Drager ready.
What does NVDA number 1 say from input help mode? You go to input help mode, NVDA number 1. If you press Control NVDA F1, what does it say?
Class teacher comic Drager ready.
Okay, T is ready. For those who are ready, have an editor that accepts Python. Or go to an app where you like to create an app module for. Be sure to write down the executable name. To find out what the executable name is, press NVDA F1 for log viewer. And one of the things in there is app module. And that's where you'll find the name of the executable. And then once that's done, we will open the app modules folder from the user configuration directory. And then you'll be creating a new text file named according to the name of the executable. So in my case, it will be notepad.py.
Space, not select. Content, the function, my text, not.
I'm going to type in notepad.py. Again, it's different for your app. So, oops. There you go. This is eSpeak.
Content end.
So once Laura gets her command working, then we'll proceed from here. So now this must I recommend for this session it should be an app where there's no app module at this point. So Laura, is your command working? Breaking up a bit, so okay,
yeah,
so
it's not wanting to go where I want it to go.
that's fine.
I've got the Notepad++ up here. Anyway.
Okay. So in that case, don't worry. So for those who are ready, this is what you're going to type to write the first bare minimum app module, and I will try my best to explain what I'm going to type.
MPORT space ASSA.
Whoops.
APPMODULEAANDLR.
And for readability purposes, I'll put blank lines
Blank.
in between this, but
CLAS space APPMODULE left paren APPMODULEHANDLR dot APPMODULE right paracolon PASS tab pass tab black tab.
what I just did is I have created a 4-line bare minimum app module. I will talk about what app module handler is in a second when I go give you a backstage tour. This is what you will be writing to write your bare minimum app module. You can add additional things like name of the app module, copyrights if you want, the name and what the app module is for. Those will be headers, but not for this one. It is recommended to write headers, but for this one, let's not worry about that. We'll worry about that starting next week. But this is what you will see when you are writing the bare minimum app module.
Import app module handler.
Import app module APP, capital MODULE, capital HANDLER. This is the central module that NVIDIA provides to work with app modules. Below this, the import statement in Python says include this file when you're trying to run.
Blank.
Below that, there's a line for readability purposes. And then there's this statement.
Class app module left paren app module handler dot app module right paren colon.
Class capital A, and then or lowercase capital A, and then APP, and capital MODULE. a class in Python is a way to encapsulate objects. For this reason, Python does support class and object-oriented programming. That is, you use objects, manipulate objects in memory like controls, specific like people and whatnot. And then you can do, this is what's called inheritance. That is to say, you can write specialty objects from a base class. So a base class is one that powers this particular thing. For this reason, I said earlier in the session 0 that you should have some knowledge of Python. For this one, you don't have to. So this is class app module left parent app module handler dot app module right parent colon.
Class app module left parent app module handler dot app module right parent colon.
And then below that, you'll be typing
tab pass.
Tab pass is indentation based. So Python indentation, so you can write four spaces, you can write tab, and PASS means skip this. Now, this is a bare minimum app module.
Blank.
Let me switch back to Notepad.
App module untitled dash no. Currently running application is notepad.exe. Configuration saved.
Now, if I restart NVDA.
Exit NVDA dialog. What would you like to do? Question. Combo box exit to restart.
Restart. If I press restart, I'll press Control NVDA F1 again.
Error in untitled dash notepad. Edit multi-line. Blank.
Oops.
Currently running application is notepad.exe.
I'm glad that we got this. In case you have an error like this, likely a syntax error, I'll be opening the app NVDA log viewer, NVDA F1, press up arrow several times until I arrive at the error in question.
NVDA app mod in IOP and in no touch debug warning that the IO app fact error no local error dash app error in app module trace app file quote attribute error colon tick module tick object has no attribute tick app module tick untitled
likely indentation error.
Blank S A P tab blank code right per E L import app.
Let's try this again.
Untitled configure exit restart untitled dash notepad edit multi-line blank.
This time, if I press Control NVDA F1, here's what eSpeak will say.
Start new update available colon team talk v dot 5.1.3 star connecting.
Anyway, so oops, I got this.
Sean Randall joined channel.
Oops, I don't know what happened there, but so we got somehow disconnected.
C colon untype app modules row team talk 5 team talk left Christina freedom 50 client disconnect reference record conversations tab control plus alt plus a checked D client C colon.
Well, I got kicked out for some reason, so that's fine.
Team talk 5 C colon untitled.
So if I press Control NVDA F1 this time,
currently running application is notepad.exe and currently loaded module is notepad.
What a difference! Before we got kicked, I don't know, somehow I got server got kicked out, but before, when I press Control NVDA F1, it just said currently loaded app.
Star Sean Randall left channel.
Currently loaded module app application is notepad.exe. That's it. But this time, NVDA said currently loaded application is notepad.exe, and currently loaded app module is notepad. That is the bare minimum app module. Just 4 lines. Well, without the new line, this is what you will get.
Team top 5 Seco blank.
Let me type it again.
IFOR space PPMODAEANR. Import app module handler. CAAS APPMODAE left paren APPMODAE HAR dot APPMODAE right per colon AS.
Now this is what I meant by 2-liner.
Class app module left. Class app import app module handler. Class app module left paren app module handler dot app module right paren colon pass.
Now let me start NVDA.
Untitled end restart.
Don't worry.
Untitled dash notepad edit multi-line.
This time, this is what you'll get.
Currently running application is notepad.exe and currently loaded module is notepad.
That is the bare minimum app module, 2 lines, but for readability purposes, I have put new lines and I have separated pass statement on its own line. So that is the bare minimum app module. And this is just a start.
Team top 5, team top Ethan 4 and 14 level.
At this point, are there any questions?
There is.
So you still don't use Python in this?
You don't still use Python? Laura, what was your question?
Yes, I do.
Wow, echoes.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. I don't know why. But anyway, whenever I hit my F1 control NVDA, it doesn't want to say a darn thing. But
Odd indeed.
that is. It's like, wow, okay. Yeah, I don't get this. But then whenever I hit NVDA F1, it works fine. It opens the log thing.
Yeah, sounds like something's going on with your key assignments there. Or it doesn't want to work with the... Try left control NVDA and F1, and then we'll see what happens there.
That's where I tried it from first. But I can do that. I'll redo it. Oops. Hold up. This is going to be fun.
You can write any app modules in Notepad. You just have to compile them with Python.
Okay, that's weird. It just worked with the right control, but not the left. I don't get it.
So in a way, you have written a Python code. You've written Python code. So like bare minimum Python is a print hello world, print quote hello world end quote. In Python 3 it will be print function, or print left parent quote hello world quote right parent, but
change nick enable voice activation tab control plus shift plus a checked T.
You can write app modules in Notepad, but that's what Taya is asking. You can write app modules in Notepad, but I recommend that you don't. Indentation issues. But there's a feature that NVDA might get that will let you hear indentations in tones. I will not be able to demonstrate this today because of time constraints, but because of time here. But what you just wrote, for those who are following along with this, is you wrote the first bare minimum app module for your app. So in my case, it was Notepad. For some of you, it would have been something else. So that is the bare minimum app module. Any other questions or comments, text chats or whatnot at this point?
Team top 5 class.
Can you run that first part of it, or pick that up? Because since I was having technical difficulties, I want to be able to at least write the thing. I got it to work with my right control, believe it or not. Weird, okay.
So to write the app module, you need the editor like Notepad++ or whatnot. Not Notepad though, please. Go to an app where there's no app module. Locate the executable name, NVDA F1, and one of the things that you see is app module variable, and it will have the executable name. And after that, you would from the editor, you would name the file according to the name of the executable. So executable.py, whatever the name it is, and then you would type import app module handler. And then we would type class app module left parent app module handler dot app module right parent colon and then pass. That's it. That's the bare minimum app module. There's a more elegant way to write a bare minimum app module. We won't see it until later. That only requires one line. That's it. But we won't get there yet. And actually, we won't go there yet. Now, any other questions before we move on to the next one, which is
NVDA con keynote auditorium left paren NV access right paren left paren 1 right.
Any other questions or comments or anything like that before we continue? And for those who are following along with code, did it manage to work? You have to restart NVDA for the new app module to load. So if you might want to use push talk if you want. So I'll assume it worked. If it didn't, let me know so I can go back and revisit some of the topics there. So at this point, I will give you a backstage tour of how NVDA detects that you're running an app and how it loads in the app module.
Joseph, I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe it sounds weird now after all, but because of this weird team talk, what's happening and this breakup, I couldn't hear the complete sentence. What is the second line? So this one, class left parent. Could you tell me again what's it? Because I don't know what's going on with Team Talk.
I see.
Breaks.
I see. It might be mine. So let me actually read to you what it says. So the line in question that Christian was asking is this.
Class app module space B space.
The line that Christian was talking about is
class app module left paren app module handler dot app module right paren colon.
That is the line I think Christian was talking about. Class, capital A, and then app with capital A, and then module, capital M, left parentheses, app module handler with just lowercase a, uppercase M, uppercase H. App module handler, app module. Alright, so in that case, I'll assume that it is working for some people. Let me know if it isn't, so that I can go back and work stuff with you. Let me give you a backstage tour of how NVDA loads app modules. To do that, let me introduce Nuance Vocalizer.
Configure Team Talk 5 synthesizer.
Team Talk 5 Classic V.5 1 dialog tree view Chanel 1 of 13.
Now anyway, so let me open the NVIDIA source code.
This PC window items view list desktop not selected 1 of 10 team.
By the way,
preferences tab F chain enable voice activation tab CTRL plus shift plus A check.
There you
go.
Desktop. Now can you hear Vocalizer okay? Before I continue.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So
Yep,
okay.
I can. Just I can hear Vocalizer.
Christian, you want to say something?
I said I can hear it.
Okay, so
S storage left paren D colon right storage left paren D speak type characters off. Dot items code.
So
NVDA 4 of 8 items view list appy.py app module handler.py 26 of 196.
This is the module that you'll be importing if you're writing an app module. We'll see next week in the next session when we talk about scripts, input and output, how to import other modules that you need.
Edit with notepad d colon /da code number ***.
Now the function that I'm looking at is
find
def
select def get app name from process ID left paren process ID comma include x equals false right paren colon.
Now it will use Windows APIs. Now in many operating systems there is a way to distinguish one program from another or one process from another, and this is called process ID or PID for short. A PID is a unique number that operating systems assign to processes and is guaranteed to be unique as long as an app is running. And it can be reclaimed by another app once the app with the given ID terminates. For Windows, the way the PID is displayed is quite unusual. You'll notice that as you go through Task Manager and as you look at Details tab and you look at PID, you'll notice that the PID, the ID numbers are divisible by 4. Now, according to Windows internals from Rusinovich, Solomon, and Ionescu, it is because the PIDs are shifted 2 bits to the left. They're shifted multiplied by 4. So you'll get some readings out there. It's divisible by 4 in Windows. Linux, it doesn't look like that. So the first thing that NVIDIA will do when it detects that you're running an app module is it will consult a table of running app modules, running apps. If a new app is found and the PID is different, that's what the key is, it will load the app module that's associated with this PID or process ID. So this is one of the things that goes into this. The other function I'm looking at is
tap def get app module for NVDA object left paren obj right paren colon.
There's a special case of that.
Tap def get app module from process ID left paren process ID right paren colon.
This is the app. This is the one in question. So
tab quote finds the app module that is for the given process ID dot. The module is also cached for later retrievals dot. Def unselected.
The function name is
def get app module from process ID left paren process ID right paren
get
colon.
app module from process ID. So that is the function that gets called when it attempts to load an app module for an app.
Blank tab at parent process ID colon. The ID of the process for which
Integer.
you tab it returns tab it retype tab quote tab with line get app module lock colon. Tab quote quote quote.
This is the source code for this function.
Tab with line get app module lock colon. Tab mod equals running table dot get left paren process ID right paren. Star right angles wanamir. Tab if not mod colon. Tab app name equals get app name from process ID left paren process ID right paren.
Now this uses Windows API to find out what that is.
Tab mod equals fetch app module left paren process ID comma app name right paren.
It will look up various locations such as the user directory, the add-on directory, and whatnot.
Tab if not mod colon. 4 tab raise runtime error left paren quote error fetching default app tab running table left bracket process ID right bracket equals mod tab return mod blank def update left paren process
and so on. So what it'll do is in the nutshell, what it'll do is NVDA will look at the process ID, and if it's not in the running table, it keeps a tab on what process apps are running at the moment. And if it finds that it is a new app, it will attempt to load the app module from the given location. So that's one part of that. This app module from that.
Def cleanup left paren def does app module exist left paren name right paren colon.
And the app module exists. It will look at executable name and the executable the PI file that's associated with that for the app module.
Def fetch app module left paren process ID comma app name right paren colon.
This is a real worker here.
Quote returns an app module found in the app modules directory comma for the given application name dot def unselected.
Now this is the actual thing.
Tab at type tab at retype code tab quote tab number first comma check whether the module exists dot tab number we need to tab number python 2.x can tick properly handle Unicode mod.
Right, there's a thing about 2x versus 3x is Unicode is first class.
Tab mod name equals app name dot encode left paren quote mbcs blank tab if does app module exist left tab try colon tab return line import line left paren quote app.
This is a magic method. This is a line import. That is the method. That is the function that is used to load the app module. That's why I said it import app module and whatnot. So when it does is, when it finds that you're running a new app, it will attempt to import it from various locations. It'll first look at the add-on directory if it finds it. It'll find it in the user directory. If not, it will look at the NVDA core app modules directory, which can be found under the source code source directory. Failing that, it will just use the default app module, which has various things in there. It's got the product name, product version, process ID, and many other goodies, which we will meet throughout this course.
Source window, items, team talk.
There's a limitation here though. NVDA will fail to locate an app module where the name of the executable has a dot in the middle. Like something.windows.exe, something.v4.exe, and whatnot. It will fail. One workaround is putting underscores, and there's a patch that has been sent to NV Access to allow this scenario to happen. Where there's a dot, it will be replaced by underscores, therefore it will allow the app module for that app to load properly. That is a backstage tour of how NVDA can load app modules for a specific app. And when it's trying to do, you may have heard set error beep the first time I tried to load Notepad app module. And that could happen if something happens like it had a name, it had a syntax error, it had an attribute error, and whatnot. And if there's no problem, it will load. And along the way, NVDA will indeed compile the app module Python source code into what's called a bytecode. A bytecode is a way of allowing interpreted language such as Python to work with code in its own way. So that's what PYC and .pyo files are for.
Untitled app modules Twitter / inbox Untitled team talk.
And that is a backstage tour on app module loading process. Any questions or discussion topics at this point?
Level 0 and gadget left.
For the example, what was the fourth line of code?
For which one? For which function? App module.
Under the class app module in the notepad.py.
The fourth line was just the word pass, indented by a tab.
Okay.
Pass tells Python do nothing. And this is required if you want to create an empty function or empty class.
It sounds interesting and curious.
So at least that is the bare minimum app module. And for this session, this is actually the last thing I want to introduce you to at this point. All right. So at this point, any other questions or comments or things that we should talk about? Discussion topics for this one? Stop transmit button. If not, for this session, we talked for. I guess we'll be ending this session. For this session, session 1, the introduction, we talked about what app module is, what app modules are not. We talked about how to collaborate with app developers, sending them reports and accessibility issues and not. And then we got a chance to actually write a bare minimum app module. I hope you had success with that for an app. And next week on July 2nd, it'll be held, for those listening to the live one, it'll be held at July 2nd at 11 a.m. Pacific again. For those listening to the recorded version, you can browse the next chat session whenever it comes out. It should be up there by now in about a few weeks. But next week, we'll talk about scripts, input and output. So we'll talk about what scripts are. We'll talk about keyboard assignments, gestures. We'll talk about input, other forms of input. We'll talk about output using speech and braille. We'll talk about key, gestures map, tones, and structures of an app module. So we'll actually get started with the real coding next week. So next week we're mostly coding. So if you haven't already, I'd like to request that you have an app that you might be writing an app module for, and I recommend that you install some editor that you work easier with Python, like Notepad++. You can write app module in Notepad if you wish. So, folks, at this point, we'll call it a day. Hope you enjoyed the session 1. If you want to contact, there are various places you can contact me. My email address is joseph.lee22590@gmail.com. Twitter handle is joslee, at joslee, Joslee. You can also find me on various mailing lists, such as users mailing list, add-ons, development, and whatnot. I'm on NVDA, OFTC.net, org chat. The channel is NVDA. You'll find me there, as well as other developers if you have any questions. So at this point, we'll call it a day. Thanks for listening. We're coming to NVDA, your first NVDA app module, session 1, introduction to app modules. And this is Joseph Lee, the tour guide, signing out.